Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound with Darren Mitchell. I'm your host, and joining me as always, Christina White. Christina, how are you today?
Hey, Darren, I am doing great today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Great. I can't believe summer's half over. End of July. Now we're into August. Crazy.
I know. I don't know where it goes. Ryland asked me yesterday, he's like, August is next week. And then he's like, wait a second, is September after August? I was like, yep, it's coming. It's coming.
Back to school, buddy. Back to school. Okay, Christina. So we had a pretty exciting month. We got some cool updates. We picked up a lot of followers and listeners. So thanks everyone for following us, for subscribing. It means a lot. We had a couple things go pretty viral last month.
Yeah, we had an old podcast, which was kind of cool to see. We had done a podcast on OAS and CPP and some information that some might not know about on those two topics. And a lot of people started, watching it just over this last week or so, and a lot of new subscribers. So thank you to all of you listeners and viewers out there for checking out that podcast and continuing to stay. Also gives us a good idea on the type of content that you guys like to
Yeah.
hear too, which is great. So we can work on putting more of that kind of stuff out for you.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that podcast at the time. It was, that Canada pension when you die, what your spouse gets. People just aren't aware of that. It kind of reminds me of when we talked about RSPs and like, well, what do you mean if I don't have a spouse, it's 100% taxable, or when the second spouse dies, it's 100% taxable. These are just things that, a lot of people aren't aware of, and people in the financial industry kind of tread over them lightly, try not to upset people and just try to, appease them. So I just honest and truthful and out there, and almost all positive comments. So I think education based stuff like that, we'll see more and more of that coming from Control and Compound.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a lot of new people join our group on Facebook as well, Infinite Banking for Real Estate Investors and Business Owners. So we hope that you're enjoying that and collaborating, bringing, the whole point of that one was to bring everybody together and get some conversations going. And I do check in there quite regularly, and I see those conversations being had, which is super exciting. Nice
Yes.
to see.
Yeah, if you haven't joined the Facebook group, please do so. So digging into the updates, Christina, another month, another interest rate increase by the Bank of Canada. This is what, the 10th rate hike in a year. We're up another quarter point, brings the rate to 5%. The bank prime rates go to 7.2. Again, they're just trying to hit that inflation mark of 2%. We're going to talk a little bit about inflation later on. And then we had the U.S. Fed, same thing. They increased interest rates 0.25%, quarter point in July, highest level in 22 years. So between 5.25 and 5.5 are the rates. Their 11th hike since March of last year. So Canadian and U.S. Federal Reserves and Bank of Canada pretty much lockstep, increasing rates. We hope this is the end of it, but we keep saying that every rate increase, and now we've had 10. So some big interest rates out there right now, and we're hopeful they'll come down in the later this year or early next year.
Yeah, it's definitely been a hard hit for a lot of Canadians out there having those interest rates not just creep, kind of jump up on them. I don't think a lot of people saw this last one coming because we were seeing, in June, I think inflation was down around or it was May, it was down around 3%. Now we're actually they're showing 2.8%. So for a lot of people, they were thinking that it was, it can't keep going up, right? It's got to come down, or when will it come down? So it's a hot topic for conversation. I think we should have a little chat on it, Darren, the inflation and what's happened. Like, why is this still going up if they're saying it's going down when the whole point is to combat inflation, right? And I think if you dig into it a little bit deeper, you can see it a little bit more, what's happening with it. It's all smoke and
Yes.
mirrors.
It's smoke and mirrors. Yeah. I consider the government inflation numbers just made up numbers. Whoever in the government releases those numbers, I don't believe they've ever been to a grocery store or to fill up their car with gas in the last few months. Because when they say inflation's 2.8%, I mean, the people we talk to and you can't go to the grocery store without spending $100 on like a bag of groceries. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And then we had that July 1st massive increase in the carbon tax, especially in some provinces like ours, Nova Scotia. 20 cents a liter was the increase in diesel.
But I don't think
Philadelphia
they're
had,
counting. They're not counting the tax, right? Because they're saying that
oh,
gas is lower.
yeah.
Gas is lower than it was last June, and they're not taking into account the tax that has been added to it, which I don't think that's fair, right? Like that's
That's the smoke and mirrors. We'll just take out of the calculation anything that went up too much is how it feels. And we talked last month if 20 cents per liter diesel increase. How many things in your grocery store get delivered by a diesel truck? Approximately 100%. So we're going to see that ramifications through all kinds of other things. Grocery stores aren't going to eat that. They're going to pass it on. Delivery drivers aren't going to eat it. They're going to pass it on. Businesses aren't going to eat the increased heating and oil costs. They're going to pass it on. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet with inflation. And in fact, I don't think we were ever out of the woods in the last year. I think the inflation is much higher than the numbers we see. Because, you talk about mortgages and rent, Christina.
Yeah. So, well, one, before we jump into that, which is crazy too, but another one that I was reading about on what's kind of inflating or, messing with the numbers is that a lot of internet and cell phone carriers out there have some like deal packages and stuff going on where people are saving money on their cell phone and internet and they're incorporating these into the inflation numbers, right? But that's not, we all know how many times have you got the call? Well, if you switch to me, it's going to be half the price for 1 year and then it's going to double next year, right? So, not long-term fixes, unfortunately, but those numbers are all kind of that's all in there, right? Like they're adding those costs in there, which is not. It's just not very accurate. But one of the stats I read was Canadians are seeing about a 30% increase in mortgage prices. So 30% mortgage increase, like that's a hefty mortgage increase. And they're saying, well, renters are getting impacted as well. They're up by about 5.8%. So not great. I don't I don't like it for either people, but as 30% increase and your rents are going up 5.8, that's scary. That's not covering the costs, right?
Yeah, your insurance is probably almost doubled. Your mortgage payments up 30%. All your other expenses are up big time, and rent on average at 5.8%. And again, that's a mix across the country. So depending upon, some provinces have rent control and some don't. But again, I think that number's artificially low because the people that can't get the rate increase or the tenants that are with rent control, they're being artificially held down. But once those units become available, if you go look for an apartment today, what you're paying is a lot more than 5.8% higher
Yeah.
than they were a year ago. The available apartments are much higher. So that's just an average we get across the country. But you go look for a brand new apartment today, you're going to be paying a lot more than you did a year ago and 2 years ago.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot. And I know it's a hot topic. And people are saying like, are we going to see another increase? Is it going to stay the same? There's so much uncertainty. I know a lot of people locked into like 1 year rates to kind of hold it over, not really jumping into much more than that because it's pretty unknown. Like we say, we can read these stats out loud, but to analyze them, I don't know, Darren, like, what do you think? Are they going up? Are they staying? What's happening?
I think I'm hopeful the rates are pretty much tapped out now because it just takes a while for all this to flow through the economy. You mentioned mortgage payments up 30%, but that's only probably about one fifth to one third of people that have actually renewed since we've seen these price increases or rate increases. And we've seen the rate increases like 10 of them now. So even some of the people that renewed early on when there was 1, 2, or 3 of those price increases, well, great, maybe they locked in for another 3 or 5 years at what now is considered a low interest rate like 6 months ago. But now that we have really 10 increases in the Bank of Canada rate, all those people renewing their mortgages now, they're going to be up significantly, and they're going to be up more than 30%. So I'm hopeful the rates are going to be just about done increasing because it's starting to be felt. You talk to business owners, I was up in Ontario last week and I was talking to a couple people in the trades industry, and they said it's finally starting to slow down in some things. A lot of these companies that were doing expansions They've stopped doing the expansions because they see the softening of the economy. So I think those signs are just going to start multiplying in the next number of months. But who knows what the government decides? So I'm hopeful, but we'll see.
Thanks for listening so far. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you always know when new content is coming out. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please leave a 5-star rating and leave a review and subscribe. And if you are interested in learning more, please visit our website at controlandcompound.com to sign up for a free education session with one of our wealth coaches.
Yeah. Next update. So another thing that's up. The S&P is up 19.42% year to date. So investments are up. Stocks and investments are up. I know the last time we chatted, pardon?
In the U.S., yeah.
Oh, in the U.S. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I've got to come. That's right. The TSX is up 6.07% year to date. It was better like last month. I think it was up like 2, Darren. So come on, give us a break here. We're moving. So they're, it's you've got to run. I'm hearing a lot of people though that are sitting in cash and missing the run though, which ends up happening a lot of the times in situations like these when there's so much uncertainty. You don't want to jump in, but staying out of it's not ideal either, right? So it's what are you to do?
Yeah. Who has the crystal ball? I mean, a lot of people will dollar cost averaging, so they'll put the money in over a period of time. But, those people sitting in cash, depending upon what day you're listening to this, they might be with a big smile on their face because the market could be down another 20 or 30%. So, we don't have crystal balls, so we wish we did. But yeah, U.S. Seems to be doing better than Canada. And then the other ones like Bitcoin's just under 30,000, give or take. So that's up 75, 80% year to date. Again, massive drop last year on Bitcoin, but year to date doing well. And then Christina, we want to talk a little bit about our neck of the woods in Halifax. What's going on with Halifax? It's been a rough couple of years for the East Coast. What's going on in the housing market in Halifax?
Well, do we start with the natural disasters that have happened in the last little bit and how it's impacted? Like, there's just so many things that have impacted the housing market the last little bit. Like, I'm sure people saw in the news recently, we had the flash flooding and we had more rain in 24 hours than we typically do in the whole month of July. It was scary. I know you were away, Darren, but I was here and it was terrifying. Like, I mean, the lightning was going on for, I think, 12 hours straight. We had lightning outside, rain coming down, roads washed out, rivers. We had loss of life. Like, it was scary. I'd never seen anything like it. Like football fields, baseball fields just taken out, and also homes. Right? We had a lot of homes go and it hasn't been that long since we had the fires here as well, where we lost a lot of homes in the Halifax area. And these areas that we're talking are not far apart. Like, we're 10 minutes on the highway between the two areas between the flooding. And everybody got the water, but some of the mass flooding happened within 10 minutes of where the mass fires kind of happened. What was that? Like a month or so ago?
Yeah. So we had the fires and then we had the floods. Like there's the Bedford Highway, there was pictures of beavers swimming down the Bedford Highway, people canoeing down. There was a mall basically underwater, an office building underwater. It was really bad. So you've got, I think we lost 151 homes in the fire. We lost a whack of homes here. The vacancy rate was 1% or below anyway. So if you're trying to get a house built, you're trying to find a place to rent right now in Halifax, it's a tough road because already our limited amount of housing has just shrunk, and anyone that has a trade is looking to repair homes because there's so many repairs. Are working 24 hours a day to repair. I know my neighbor was halfway through their roof, getting a new roof when the storm hit, and just all the problems. So these trades were shut down, and now they're fixing stuff, and all these people want to rebuild. It's a tough time to find a place to live in Halifax right now.
Yeah, it's devastating. And we also had changes to the Airbnb rules in Halifax not that long ago, which might have added fuel to the fire because all of those people, a lot of people sold. They didn't want to keep it or they turned them into long-term rentals at the time. But right now, a lot of people in Halifax need short-term rentals. Like that's what they need to hold them over until they can figure out, the flood damage, fire damage, those types of things. And we have a lack of that as well here. So
We have a lack of that. And the other big problem we have in Halifax is we have a lack of people wanting to put money into rental housing right now because of what the government did during COVID and hasn't changed, which is the rent control. So you've got these massive increase in expenses for landlords, and then you buy a unit and you for twice as much or three times as much as the last guy paid for it, and you can't increase the rent for those tenants. So people are saying, why invest in Nova Scotia? Why don't I go to a province that is a little more friendly for landlords? So we've got a lot of things working against us in the Halifax housing crisis right now.
yeah. We thought sorry, it's not that happy. We thought we'd share it with you. Since we're here anyways, I know I've had lots of questions from people. Oh my gosh, Christina, what's happening over there, right? So we thought we'd share that with you for the update, kind of what's happening around here, right?
Yeah. So everyone at Control and Compound, we're safe. Everyone's good, but yeah.
Not my landscaping. My landscaping was not safe.
Your landscaping didn't make it.
That's okay. Small,
all right, so-
minimal in the big things.
Jump into industry news. I thought this was kind of neat. I looked up sort of how many Canadians are covered by insurance in Canada and what are the numbers. So there's 22 million Canadians that have life insurance, totaling a death benefit of $5.3 trillion. So there's $5.3 trillion of life insurance death benefit out there in Canada. And last year, the insurance industry paid out $14.3 billion in claims. And of that, it's kind of split. There's like living benefits, like a critical illness, a disability, some of the stuff paid while you're alive. That was about $5.9 billion. And death claims paid in Canada were $8.4 billion. So again, insurance industry is a massive industry in Canada. This is just the death benefits, those tax-free death benefits. $8.4 billion were paid out in Canada last year. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they're in the business of paying claims. We tell people, they're like, well, do they pay? Yes, they pay for sure. Yeah. So on to Control and Compound news. So we have got a couple updates. Our very own Grace in our office. So if you work with us, you've probably talked to Grace before at some point in time. She passed her life insurance license exam and is now officially licensed with us. So we want to say congratulations to her because that's a lot of work that she put in there. And we're very proud of her for getting that license and, moving on up. So exciting news there. The other thing that we have going on, Darren, is we've got a couple live speaking events that are coming up this fall. So that's exciting. Yeah. So you got a little bit of traveling to do in the fall, see some people.
Yeah. So I got a couple speaking engagements, one in September and one in October. I'll talk about the October one. So there's going to be Everyday Investor, the television show that I appear on in Ontario, or I appear in several episodes. The Everyday Investor Summit is taking place, and there's going to be 6 people in the real estate world, or me and Christina, and then 5 other people truly in the real estate world. We're going to share more on that, but if you want to mark the date, it's going to be October 29th, which is a Sunday, and it's going to be at the Venue, VENU Conference Center in Vaughan. So, we'll get you more information, but you can mark that. And then, Christina, the second one?
Another event that you're going to be at that's super exciting. This one's coming up a little bit sooner from September 14th to 17th. Darren's going to be speaking. I'm going to be there as well at the Real Estate Investors Summit. So we're super excited with this one. They've got some amazing speakers lined up for the weekend. They've got Barbara from Shark Tank. They've got Michelle from Dragon's Den. Ken Dunn is actually running the whole thing from Cottage Dream Vacations. So he's going to be there. He teaches people how to to get cottages without their own money. So I'm excited to hear about that. We'll be speaking on infinite banking, which is exciting. And yeah, Mel and Dave are going to be there too. So it's a huge lineup. Like I think it's going to be great. It's a full jam-packed weekend from September 14th to 17th. And I know that tickets are available now. I think there's still some good pricing out there. So if you go to Real Estate Investor Summit, you'll be able to bring that up and get your tickets.
Yeah, and we'll have a link for tickets too shortly here that you'll be able to. We'll send it out to you on another podcast how you can buy tickets from us. But yeah, we're excited about that. An amazing group, and we talk about investing in yourself, so we encourage people to invest in yourself and attend one or both of these conferences and see what you can learn. I always learn something at a conference that I can take away and apply immediately. So I'm excited for that. And then, we talked about Investor Mel and Dave. They were actually, when we review our podcast for the last month, we had Investor Mel and Dave on. It was a huge success. We get all kinds of downloads and views on that. So if you haven't watched that one, please check it out. We did our first Bitcoin episode. We're going to do a series on Bitcoin. So we got that one out. We did a first in a series on the Nelson Nash Becoming Your Own Banker book. We're going to have a series on that as well. And then the other one, we really got a lot of nice feedback on using a HELOC versus a policy loan for real estate investing. So if you're a real estate investor or you want to be a real estate investor, I encourage you to really check out that Mel and Dave one and the using the HELOC versus a policy loan. Those are actionable items that you can implement right away.
Yeah, we had a great lineup of podcasts last month, and we have more coming for this month coming up. So we do have special guest Alona Koziel. She was on to join us, and she is talking about how she grew out her real estate investing and answering questions like, where do I start in real estate investing? Which I think is a great question. Where do we start? So she's on telling her journey, her story, and sharing some advice with the listeners. So that one you're going to want to check that one out. We're going to be continuing our series on Bitcoin and then also the Nelson Nash Infinite Banking Concept book. So super great podcast coming out. You're not going to want to miss them.
And that's the August update. We hope you have a wonderful August. And don't forget to check out those live events in September and October. Have a great day. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell button. If you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please leave us a 5-star review and subscribe. And if you want more information, check out our website, controllandcompound.com, and you can sign up for an education session with one of our wealth coaches.